Folks, I'm Fred McMurray. It's Thursday at 2 p.m. Everything seems to be functioning. So, it's time to kick off another interesting episode of
Woo! Happy Friday Eve. And we are flying solo today. My partner Elizabeth is off doing some other great marketing stuff. So welcome to Pillars of Franchising. We hope you're all having a great week. We've got a wonderful show for you today. We're talking to the franchisors of I Will Be There, a senior care franchise and an emerging brand, which is very exciting. So an emerging brand, for those of you who don't know, are typically franchisors that have less than 100 units. And we're going to talk through the show about the pros and the cons. And after we wrap up the interview with David and Laura Greenwood, we are going to do $1 million mentor panel discussion on our thoughts and our concerns and our loves and likes and whatnot of emerging brands. And the big news this week for Pillars of Franchising is we finally broke through and got on Pandora Radio. So wherever you listen to your podcast, wherever you listen to your music, you should now be able to find us. And I always like to call Pandora the Pandora's box because it's the only way I remember what the heck that channel is called. So if you like Pandora's box and you listen on Pandora, you can find us there at Pillars of Franchising. And last but not least, remember to check out on pillarsoffranchising.com our latest issue, the October anniversary issue of the Pillars of Franchise digital magazine. And here we go. Welcome. Welcome. Laura and David Greenwood of I Will Be There. It is such a pleasure to have you.
It is a great pleasure to be here.
So you guys started this business as a startup, standalone, locally owned, right?
Yeah. In 2013, we decided to launch the local business, and we literally started it from scratch. And we have been working with seniors ever since. But at the time, we just had a passion, a burning desire to make a difference in the senior space. And we have been doing great things with seniors ever since.
Well, we know that seniors is a huge growing population for us here in the States. But David, tell us a little bit about what exactly it is that I Will Be There does for the senior population today.
I'll Be There helps seniors and their families navigate the maze of choice of assisted living, memory care, respite care, independent living, or home care options. So basically, the passion that we bring to the table is translated into guidance, wise care guidance to families and seniors that are in need. Often some of the most difficult situations that a 90 to 100-year-old person might find themselves in. Maybe they're facing Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, or simply just a bad fall.
Right.
So we come alongside them and lower the family's stress and help them get to optimal care.
Well, I know that I've been through this not too long ago where they suddenly call you and say, hey, just want to let you know that in the next 5 or 7 days, Medicare runs out. And what does that mean, right? Is that something that you would deal with, helping people be placed when a certain type of insurance runs out?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we are a crisis management solution poised to help families that are put into a very difficult predicament. And we come alongside them. We listen carefully to the situation, the social, emotional, spiritual, financial, location, health requirements, time frame to move. And then we come up with a short list of recommendations, set up tours, either in person, virtually, or just arranging bedside options to come meet with them at their rehab or hospital, and then help them to choose a community that would be the optimal choice for them.
Laura, can you tell us a little bit about, so you started as a local business, just you and David. At what point, what drove you, and at what point did you decide to become a franchisor? Because that's a really big step.
Yes, it's kind of an interesting story. So right at the beginning in 2013, it was mostly David getting out there, building relationships and learning how to best serve that population. I had said to him at one point when he was looking at a job, "You're really good at senior population. You have such a great rapport with people in that group. You should look for something there." And that kind of evolved into this service. But prior to that, David had always wanted to do something in franchising, whether it was become a franchisee. We have some extended family who've been heavily involved in franchising. And so he was very familiar with it. I was not. So it took a while for him to kind of convince me to open my mind to the business model. He finally convinced me to take some courses in franchise management, do the Georgetown course, and really get to understand the model. And then I could really see the potential for the business model, but also just an opportunity to help folks across the United States, not only in the senior space, but help get entrepreneurs up and off the ground. We're both MBAs. We're big business minded, and we really have a heart for this kind of mission driven business that helps people and helps people make a great living at the same time.
Excellent. I think the interesting thing is when you are a founder and then turned franchisor, no one can ever say, well, you've never done it, because you had to do it to get to where you are, right? And so I have to imagine, what is the process of finding a good franchisee? What do they look like to you? Where do they come from?
Yeah, so one of the things that we look for in a franchisee is someone who has a passion and a heart for seniors, but also a strong business acumen. One of the unusual things about I'll Be There is that we aren't just a group of entrepreneurs trying to make a difference in people's lives, but we're also people that have a very detailed database that we rely on, and a very specific process that we equip our franchisees to leverage to help seniors and their families. So what we're looking for with the franchisees is someone with leadership experience, whether it be in the military or in the healthcare space, or simply someone that in the private sector that or the government that's really shown an ability to help others in the workspace, and also that they're good with working with, listening to, and problem solving. But of course, they also need to be good at account management, sales, collections, these kinds of things as well. So there's a variety of skill sets that we're looking for, but we have a number of ways we find them.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to add it, and not just government or private sector, but maybe a leader in their community, maybe as a volunteer, or even in their church, something like that. Someone that's comfortable with leading the conversation, and coming alongside people and teaching and coaching and having that two-way conversation.
Now, the one thing, actually, there's a couple things that I really enjoyed about your brand while I was doing research and helping match somebody to the brand. And one of the things that I liked was it's a relatively low point of entry. Would you like to talk to that a little bit, Laura, in terms of franchise fees and what a franchisee gets for that franchise fee?
Sure. So our franchise fee right now is just under $55,000, and that's relatively low. We don't have a brick and mortar; it's a home-based opportunity. So you have low overhead, low ongoing costs. As a franchisor, we do a lot of mentor-based coaching and training. We do some initial training to get you on the ground as a fast start. You will come to Northern Virginia and train with our executive team. And then you go back and start developing your territory. And then there's another series of training steps after that are really one-on-one, mentor-based, on-the-job style training, where you say, hey, I had this situation, and we problem solve and really work through it. So you become an expert in your own area. We also provide, it's a learning platform We have we help with SEO and local marketing.
Okay.
We help with local prospecting lists, and we have some national and regional relationships with some large senior living groups that they will have access to get them out to a fast start as well. So there's a lot of different marketing pieces and so on that they work with us hand in hand on.
Okay. Now, David, tell us about the model in terms of what kind of staffing might somebody need to open an I'll Be There, say if you're going to open a metropolitan area.
Right. So it's a great question, Kristin. The I'll Be There is really looking for franchisees to be owner operators. And so I think that in and of itself defines a lot of how the staffing would go after that. The reason why it's so important for the owner to also be an operator is they become the face of the business in their local territory, and this is completely relationship based. So it's extremely important that there be not just a manager in place, but the owner is there and really shows their passion for seniors and a continuity of care over the years that they run the business. Beyond that, one or two senior living advisors is helpful, but not in the initial stages. We really want our franchisees in the first 3 to 9 months to really be doing all aspects of the business with our support and coaching and mentoring, and then perhaps hiring a senior living advisor part-time after that, and maybe in year 2 or year 3, a full-time first one senior living advisor full-time, and possibly starting on hiring a second part-time senior living advisor. So the goal is go light on the overhead and stay profitable.
Okay. And Laura, I have to imagine that you probably see a lot of benefits to being an emerging brand. Can you kind of talk to what a franchisee might enjoy if they were to join an emerging brand like yours?
Sure. I think the most obvious thing is that we're not just an emerging brand. We actually are running our own business here. So part of the training is really you get to participate right alongside. And we have so much energy because you're with the executive team that's doing this work all day, every day. So you can't get closer to the action than that. So since we're emerging and still relatively small, we have that ability to just hand train everyone and meet their needs and fill any experience gaps and so on.
Okay, excellent. And David, can you tell us a little bit about, are there markets that you folks are looking to go into right now? Are there markets that you're maybe not interested in?
Right. We're franchising and we're offering franchise opportunities in more than 40 states. We're looking for the first 5 franchisees to get outsized territories. Typically, in a territory size might be 400,000 in population, but we're offering much larger sizes, jumbo territories for the first 5. And we're looking in up and down the East Coast at markets that in key metropolitan areas that are still available, whether it be in Florida or along the South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. But the other thing is that we are certainly open to setting up franchisees much further away, whether it be in Texas or out in the Midwest, because a lot of the training and support and mentoring can be done through video conference technology. So it's not like they have to be just within a few hundred miles of our current operations to be able to get the kind of support that they need.
Sure. I have to assume that COVID taught us all that.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us what are some of the biggest things that set you apart from some of the other brands that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that sets us apart, and first of all, is that we are creating a training platform that is second to none. We really are providing the gold standard for great advice in the senior space. The way we do that, first of all, is we equip our franchisees, as Laura has talked about a moment ago, with the best training that they can get from our executive team. And a lot of times in the industry, you might be trained by a trainer, but with our company, you're trained by a cadre of experts in our executive management team. So we have one person on our team that's really an expert in at developing relationships for finding new customers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another person on our team who's really an expert in understanding the matching process between the seniors and their needs and the facilities and their care capabilities.
Okay.
And then we have yet another person on our team that's really an expert at helping families come to the optimal decision. And then finally, we have a person on our team that's an expert in contracts and getting in front of the right decision makers to extend your network of providers that you can offer in your local territory. So that leads us to an important question, which is, how do we get paid? We actually get paid by our communities, not by the seniors, and this makes our business extremely attractive for franchisees that are looking to do a mission-driven business. It doesn't get better than helping the most marginalized of society, the seniors in their 90s and 100s that may be really in need of care and guidance and help, but at the same time, not charging them a penny is extremely attractive, and getting paid instead by the community that they ultimately get moved into, so or that they choose. So the beauty of the model is that we don't have to charge seniors, but we still make a good living helping, and the seniors don't get upcharged later, or they don't get a charge passed back to them later.
Okay, so basically they're helping people find the next step, the next place to go, and the people who are paying for that is that next home or place that they go to. So the facility pays the franchisee, not the senior.
That's right. The provider pays the franchisee, the community, or the home care provider. They're the ones that are ultimately footing the bill for all of this guidance and assistance. Yes.
That's excellent. Okay. And do you find that it's hard to get owner operators as opposed to more of an investment type franchisee who wants to maybe have somebody run the business for them? Have you run across that much?
We get a lot of questions about that, right? Can we be partially active or just be an investor? Mm-hmm. And we have to say no. It's not that type of business. So is it more difficult? Yes, but we are looking for a specific type of person. So at the end of the day, that's what's going to build the brand.
Well, and I do appreciate that, because I remember with my candidate and working with Stephanie and your development team, talking about the importance of the interview process, and that the both of you needed to speak with this candidate and make sure that it felt like a good cultural fit. And I think that is very important for people to understand, because not all brands will agree to just take your money and let you have the brand. It's not like that. Some people have a vested interest in protecting the brand and the culture and what the brand stands for. So I personally appreciate that. And I really think that it's probably something that will hopefully withstand throughout the brand's time. And you'll continue to see more people own the brand that are like-minded. So
we could grow a lot faster if we didn't have that principle, but that it's really important to us, to maintain that quality and really become a brand that is the gold standard in advice.
Absolutely. And so what kind of process do you use to target these various markets right now?
We're doing a lot of things. We're doing a lot of online advertising and social media. We're doing things like pillars of franchising and getting the word out there of who we are and what we stand for and what we're looking for. So we're also doing some communication work with different organizations of professionals who work with seniors themselves. So we're hoping to put enough feelers out there that people start hearing the word and getting to know us and wanting to be a part of our family.
Yeah, I'll tell you so far, taking someone through this entire process, it really is one of those brands that I think the more people learn about it, it's a really feel good brand, right? You just feel like you're doing something positive. So I really get excited about the brand. I have to be honest with you on that. Let's talk about challenges. Are there any challenges that you have faced? I mean, obviously, you turned into a franchisor in 2020.
Yes.
That's
Well, yeah, I was going to say, the fact is that a lot of people aspire to run their own business. Not very many people aspire to take on the headaches of setting up an FDD and working with lawyers and tax advisors and so forth. But we did, and we love it because the challenges that come with franchising also have enormous rewards in terms of the sense of satisfaction that comes with helping a business owner realize their dream.
Right.
And I can't tell you enough how much we love to see entrepreneurs realizing their calling in life. And a lot of these franchisees that we've been working with, like Luann Martinson down in Charlotte, or Casey Ryerson up in Maryland, these are people who have always had a desire to work with seniors in different capacities, but they ultimately wanted to own their own business. And so we're able to let them stand on their own and yet support them in a myriad of ways, so that they can be independent, but at the same time well equipped, and constantly getting additional support as needed in real time.
Okay. And Laura, I have to think that this is probably a really great brand for somebody who maybe is in a dual income situation, or maybe one of them has a professional job and the other one, maybe the kids are grown back to school, and decides that this is something that really interests them. Is that kind of like an ideal situation, rather than maybe somebody this is the job to support the family right out of the gate?
Yeah, it's a great job either way, in my opinion. But yeah, it does help if getting any business started, there's a ramp up time, right? Yeah. Ours is relatively short compared to some, very large brick and mortar type of a business. But at the same time, it just helps not to, for the franchisee not to feel, desperate that they have to make it work right now, because it is relationship building, and it takes a little bit of time to get in the door and get face to face and do that. We'll teach you how, but it still takes a little bit of time. But I'll tell you what, for someone who is an empty nester, perfect opportunity, or someone who has kids in school, even flexible schedule. You can go pick them up. I do that. I go pick up my kids, I go volunteer for lunch duty. I'm a lunch lady. So, you just have the freedom to do that in a job like this, where you can set your own schedule and work from home.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's why I joined franchising, just for that very reason, to be able to do all those mom things and still have a career too. So how can David, Laura, whoever, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in the I'll Be There opportunity?
David?
Well, they can dial our phone number, 218-OWL-CARE, 218-OWL-CARE. They can also, of course, go to our website, I'llBeThereFranchising.com. I'llBeThereFranchising.com has a plethora of resources available to learn more about the opportunity. They can, of course, just email either Laura or I directly at our david.greenwood@I'llBeThere.com or laura.greenwood@I'llBeThere.com. But we love to hear from prospective franchisees, people that are just wanting to explore more about the opportunity. But I think the unique thing about I'll Be There is that this is really a calling not only to help seniors, but as a franchisor, to equip entrepreneurs to realize their vision in life, their dream, their calling.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? You've got a great development gal working with you, Stephanie. I have to tell you, she was absolutely fabulous working with me, and she really does believe in the brand. So anybody who's interested, I know she's a really great partner to have. So obviously we'll have all of your contact information on the Pillars of Franchising page. And I am so excited to help people open these businesses across the U.S. And I want to thank you both for your time. And as you continue to grow, just know that we will be calling you again to have you come back in and give us some updates. And we look forward to seeing you emerge into 100 plus companies here. And we wish you all the best of luck.
Well,
What a great opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, franchise owners, how's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvine, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvine.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvine.com.
Hey.
Hey.
What do I have with me now?
Yeah. The Three Musketeers.
You have Jerry and the lovely Karen. So Beauty and the Beast, right?
Yeah, I said Three Musketeers, you know, hey.
Hey, so what do you guys think? What a cool concept, huh?
Definitely. I love some of the, when you think about emerging brands, and what I like is that they're really thinking about culture, what kind of culture they want to have. I think sometimes a lot of franchises or franchisors don't think about that. It's like, let's get people doing it, right? It's more about kind of the money and who's interested. And I like it that they're really taking a look at that, that culture fit, because that's really going to help, I think, build the type of brand.
Yeah, I think you're right, because sometimes people think we'll just get it all out there and sort it out later. But by then you have 32 different cultures, and it's really hard to go back and try to corral it all together. Jerry, what
Kristin, do you find it hard to believe that the first thing Karen talks about is the culture of the company? I mean,
I know.
Who would have guessed, right?
I knew that was going to be one of the first things she said.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah. You asked some great questions of our guests, and I want to follow up on that a little bit, because I'm the guy that builds large organizations, so I'm not a fit, and I get it. But they're very clear in their conversations with potential franchisees as to what they're looking for and what that future looks like, and all of the heart-based reasons that you would go with that model. And I think Laura's comments about perhaps a stay-at-home mom doing it and still being able to work with the children, and like you, Kristin, be able to go to kids' ball games and all those kinds of things. I think this is just a phenomenal mix of the really, really small models that, selling food from a cart or something like that, that are out there, and the big ones where you can buy all kinds of them. This is a really nice group right in the middle there. And I was quite taken with it, I guess.
Well, and the thing is, Jerry, what I love about this is I'm like, I have to tell this girlfriend about it. My girlfriends were like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out about work and I have to travel again, and they have kids. And I'm like, okay, A, it's a low investment. B, it is scalable, because you don't have to be the only one, right? As you continue to grow, and depending on your personality, I mean, who doesn't like going out and talking to people? Okay, not everyone, right? But I love the idea of going out and just being in the community and meeting people, and who doesn't want to help other people, right? I mean, to me, it's like when I started learning about the concept, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a good thing I can't possibly do another thing in my life, right? Because I find these brands and I'm like, I want to buy one of those, right?
Well, Kristin, me being the connector guy with IFA and everything that I do, as they're talking, I'm going through my list of people that I would like to introduce them to that might be able to for instance, Don Shen, the broker whose heart is in these emerging brands and the whole heart-based stuff, I think he and they would just get along phenomenally. Of course, the lender that I talked about before, and anything to kind of help them as they go along this path, because just like you just said, I'm always looking for a new job. This one doesn't have to be one of them, but who can I help connect them with that will help get it to another group of people out there that it would be a good fit for?
Sure. Now let's talk about, emerging brands, and not this one necessarily, but not all emerging brands are for everybody, right? And Karen, we know that not all personalities,
right,
or not all types fit an emerging brand. So what type of person do you think is not probably the right fit for an emerging brand?
What I've seen, if someone wants complete systems, right? If they're like, oh my gosh, I've got to have a complete system. They want to have all the I's dotted, the T's crossed. I think sometimes that's probably not good, because emerging, it's an entrepreneurial, right? Right. And so if you're more of, you kind of are I want to have this in a box. I want to figure this out. I think that's good. I think also people that emerging brands might not be good for are people that aren't as entrepreneurial, right? That they're, that they want to have it figured out. They want to know the market. They want to understand things. And I think that's one of the things. They just want to have it. And also with the support. And I know Lauren, David, I was very impressed with what they talked about with the support that they had. Some emerging brands don't have that type of support. They have less support. And so if you aren't comfortable with kind of not being able to figure it out, if you need to have it figured out for you, I would think an emerging brand would not be a way to go too. And I also think, and you were talking about being out there in the community and all that, a lot of times the more traditional brands, they already have the brand, right? The brand's out there, there's brand recognition. So if you're someone that's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to explain this or build something new, I want to have it set for me, I think that's also a key as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
Can I tag on with Karen on that, because she was spot on with her comments, and for me, it's kind of the big three when I talk about emerging brands, because frankly, being a part of Pillars has introduced me to a lot more emerging brands, and it's literally changed, my thought process with some of those. So this has been an educational process with me as well. But the big three still stand out, and this is what sets, I think, a great emerging brand apart from one that might be in the 600 that fail every year that IFA talks about, 600 new ones, 600 that fail, and so on. So here's the big three for me. Support is one of the number one things. Karen touched on that. And what I find as I consult with so many potential franchisees as well as emerging brands is that the potential franchisees don't know what they don't know at this point in time.
So true.
They don't even know the right questions to ask. Yep. So many of them, we can talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, but at the same time, you can have that entrepreneurial spirit and you still need somebody to explain how to set up a great operation,
absolutely,
how to hire people, maybe how to price your products. I mean, there's a long list, how to pick real estate. There's just a long list of things that a lot of people are not going to be set to do, and they're going to need help. And then who do you call with a question? Because if the infrastructure isn't built with an emerging brand, they're going to have to stop and think about how to answer that question. You may or may not get a great answer. Yeah. So number 2 on that list is suppliers. And, many of the emerging brands are going to, and I always use restaurants, you opened a restaurant, it was successful. You opened a couple more, they were doing really well. You franchised. Well, when your next franchisee wants to find out who to go to for a supplier, you turn them on to your supplier that supplies your restaurant, which might not be a good fit for them because of geography or pricing or availability, a long list of things. And the third one is, for me, maybe the biggest one, and that's risk. Because like it or not, with emerging brands, you just don't have as much track record as you do with, longer serving, bigger brands, those kinds of things. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, but you just have to be able to quantify it and understand it and be prepared for whatever might come down the path, because that will be a question your banker is going to ask. Sure. Is about the number that are out there and, how long they've been around and things like that. So those are some things you have to be prepared for with an emerging brand.
Well, Jerry, let's take the other side of that same coin. tell me how you would get prepared. Let's say you're one of our listeners out there and you're like, oh my God, you know what? My passion is all about this. I want to do an emerging brand. How do you start to build a business case for yourself to go to the bank and say, hey, listen, I need some money. This is what I'm going to do.
Well, two things I'll touch on to start with, and I got a big one. Number one is, and Laura touched on it, was the low pricing, the low involvement. And then the next piece would be the fact that this is one of the fastest growing segments of the, especially healthcare needs in the world right now is for us with gray in our hair and beyond and so on. So, if I were going to the bank, I would take a pro forma. It would be based primarily on what metrics are out there as far as how fast this is growing. There would be a lot of information. I haven't Googled it, so I can't quote anything right now. But the bottom line is there would be a lot of information about where it's been, where it's going, what the future looks like for people in that space. And that would give bankers a lot of comfort knowing that it's going to continue to grow and be successful. The low entry point for I'll Be There is, in particular, in this case, would fit really well into the pro forma. And as a subset of that, the low operating costs because of being home-based and some of those kinds of things. And then I think the last thing, bankers still have a heart, whether they want to admit it or not. Sometimes it's in a little locked box and you got to get the key to unlock it, but they still have it. Many of my best friends, including one of my brothers, is a banker, so I think I can get away with that. But the way that in particular I Will Be There is set up, but in a larger sense, I think the elderly care part of it, if you are able to show that you have a heart for that, it's really your passion, you're in it for the long haul, I think that goes a long way. So you will have to have metrics and numbers to defend your case because that's what they count on. And the fact that you're all engaged would be the frosting on that presentation.
Yeah, I love the engagement piece because, a lot of times and they were even talking about that where Laura and David were, where it's the engagement piece and it's tying a little bit about your purpose, right? Making sure that your purpose and you can show your purpose connects in. And I know bankers do, as you mentioned, Jerry, they do look at a lot of the financials and everything, but there are some of those added pieces that they also take a look at as well.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of sharing a bit of your story, right?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah. I mean,
my
bankers, plural, they know me pretty well and they know I'm not going to come and make an emotional plea to them because it's not in my DNA because it's all business to me. So my presentation would be all about numbers and metrics and growth potential and those kinds of things. But having worked with these bankers for a long time, I know that a big piece for that first franchise that you're going to buy, and I'm going to take a flyer on this, I want to quit my job and go do it. It's going to be the engagement piece, as Karen mentioned, and following your passion coupled with the financial piece. So room for both.
I was going to say also, don't you think that when they're taking a look at it, even though you're looking at your franchise that you're buying, and even its emerging brand, there are a few taking a look and sharing the few that have preceded you, whether it's because like with Laura and David, they did one, they have success. So showing that success to say, okay, this has worked here. It's worked a couple of different places. Is one of the things I would do too, and kind of bring that into the picture. I also think too, looking at the franchisor's experience, their experience level.
Yeah, because a franchisor could have had experience in another franchise system or two before they started this one. And that would be a part of the discussion with the banker, especially if they're a little hesitant with an emerging brand. So you're right, spot on again, Karen. So I would take all that information to them. I think it's in this particular case, if there's only a handful of franchisees, having had one-on-one conversations with them, perhaps even asking them if you can share some of their numbers with your banker to show what they have gone through. How long did it take them to reach break even? What does their profits look like 6 or 12 months later? Those kinds of things. That's how bankers run. So spot on.
Well, I really do like the fact that this is truly a recession-proof business. And, just like so many other things, we never know what's going to happen, right? So whether it's the economy, whether it's a pandemic, I think that when you talk about risk, Jerry, You're talking low point of entry, you're talking relatively recession proof. I mean, people are always going to grow older. You're always going to need some type of care. There's just really not a whole lot that could really go wrong unless you have the wrong fit. And that's where that cultural piece. And I was glad to hear them say money doesn't buy this brand. It's not just about the money.
Yeah. Well, and if we take it into a bigger picture, the emerging brands have so much power. A couple things come to mind. Number one, many times an emerging brand has a lower entry point than a large brand, because the larger brand can get whatever they want for their system, right? They're the big elephant in the closet, so they can get away with it. So there's a financial piece to that you can take to your bank. If you couple it with numbers based on the elephant in the room and what they've done over the last few years, and the fact that, the other piece of information I would take to my banker is how big is that market? So the 2 or 3 elephants in the room share 30% of the market, which means there's 70% out there. And now I'm an emerging brand that I'm buying into, which means I'm going to get into that other 70%. And by the way, I might charge less for my services because I got in for less. I mean, there's a whole financial equation that can go into that will defend buying an emerging brand. Exactly. And by the way, the emerging brands sometimes have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder against the big elephants too. So they will have many of their presentations that they make to a potential franchisee. You can extrapolate from and use that in your presentation to your lender about why this one versus the elephant in the room. What's the differences? What makes it attractive? Not only the financial piece, but the other things that they've figured out that the big one may not even care about at this point in time. So a lot of really powerful things you can use to decide to buy an emerging brand and also defend that to your lender.
Excellent. Karen, do you have any closing thoughts on the emerging brands?
Just a couple of things I thought that we didn't touch upon. So many times I think people like emerging brands, that there's some people that do, because, I have one of my colleagues owns several franchises. And when he started out, I think they had maybe like 3 franchises in the United States. And he loved it because he felt like he was on the ground floor. He was helping build it. So then as it grew, he was part of it. He had access to the owners. And he said he felt like not only did he learn, he grew, and he was part of really helping to shape it. And that's also, I think, a big plus of being part of an emerging brand.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Yeah, there's so much to go with that, Karen. I mean, you develop a different relationship with a franchisor in that case, because you're solving their problems as well, and the problems for other franchisees in their system, and also maybe adding to their marketing department and the information they're taking out to the market to attract more franchisees. So you have a different relationship, a very positive relationship. You're also helping to build it. In my opinion, because I'm a part of 2 of the largest brands in their category in the world, when you contribute to that system and you're engaged at a very high level, it creates a different opportunity for you moving forward. And with large brands, sometimes it's more difficult to carve out that niche for yourself with the leadership. But with an emerging brand, it's actually really, really easy, because they're welcoming your input. They're welcoming any help that you can turn around and send their way, as opposed to them sending it your way. And most of us as franchisees come into franchising with a wealth of corporate experience. We have developed a reputation of being really strong in marketing or operations, or, the accounting side of it, or something like that. And when you bring that wealth of knowledge and experience to an emerging brand, they may tap into your experience to help supplement what they already have identified that they don't have. So tremendous opportunities to build that relationship.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, Jerry, with this brand, I did learn, and Laura had reminded me that they do have a Founder Circle Advisory Council. So if you're one of the founding franchisees, you really get to contribute. And she brought it up also, or David did in the interview. The nice thing right now, when you're in an emerging brand, you really have some flexibility in territory size. And people might think, well, what does that mean? That's huge, because that's your future scalability. That allows you to go from having, 200,000 territory, 200,000, I'll call them households, to 400,000. I mean, that's a big deal. So, listen, I think we've all kind of shared our points of view, and there's not a clear cut, go to the emerging brand or don't go to the emerging brand. I think that everybody needs to be well educated, as we've talked about on this show a million times before. And if you have a favorite emerging brand out there and you'd like us to talk about it, have them on the show, please let us know at pillarsoffranchising.com. We love talking to these emerging brands and finding out what makes them different, what makes them special. And by all means, again, share those favorite brands with us so we can have them on the show. And with this, we got to pay the bills.
As usual, thank you for joining Pillars of Franchising. We appreciate every single one of you. We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Titus Center for Franchising at Palm Beach Atlantic University. You can find them on the college's website. Also, Franchise Show 247, which can be found at franchiseshow247.com. And we couldn't do without our sponsors, and we appreciate their support. Don't forget, we'd love to have calling guests. Our number to call in is 323-580-5755. That is 323-580-5755. If you have questions for our guests or for any of our $1 Million mentors, we welcome you to call in at any time on the show. We will do our very best to answer your calls. Stay tuned, more coming up.
And we want to thank you all for joining us on the show today with our guests, David and Laura Greenwood of I'll Be There. Please be sure to like, share, and comment on this episode. Don't forget, we're now on Pandora. And thank you to Jerry Akers, our $1 Million mentor, Karen Kimsey-Sword, our leadership guru, Fred McMurray, our producer, and I'm Kristin Selmeczy. And together, we are your resource for franchising success. This has been another episode of Pillars of Franchising, and the dream starts here. Have a great week.